Hello, and welcome to the midweek message of the Golden Cap team of churches. My name is Simon Parsons, and it's so good that you could join us today. Recently, a previous speaker said that he was having to sort out his library of books prior to moving to smaller accommodation. And I could sympathize with him because over the years, on a number of occasions, I have had to reduce the size of my library. And in fact, it's an exercise that I'm going through at this moment in time, just thinning out my collection of books. And it's not an easy job. And of course, when you are going through your book collection, quite often you will come across a book and you think, I would really like to read that again. And that's exactly what I've done at this moment in time. And I am actually reading a book called Great Revivals. And I really love to read accounts of some of the revivals that God has brought about, not just in this country, but around the world. And I like especially reading stories of the revival in Wales in 1906, the one in the Hebrides, and also the one that happened in Los Angeles between 1906 and 1909 that birthed the Pentecostal churches. I'd just like to read a verse to you from the Old Testament, from the book of Habakkuk the prophet, and it's chapter 3 and verse 2. And I'm reading from a translation of the Bible called the International Standard Version. And this is what it says: Lord, as I listen to what has been said about you, I am afraid. Lord, revive your work throughout all of our lives. Reveal yourself throughout all of our lives. When you are angry, remember compassion. And I'm sure you will remember some of the older translations say, in your anger or in your wrath, remember mercy. But what is revival? Well, Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones said, revival has been God's way of keeping the church alive. The Christian church would have been dead and finished centuries ago and many times over were it not for revivals. And another author defined revival as this: the inrush of the Spirit into a body that threatens to become a corpse. Now, you might be wondering about the picture behind me. Well, this picture is in a place called Hanham, and Hanham is where I grew up. This is actually a place called Hanham Mount, and it's where George Whitefield and John Wesley preached to the miners of Kingswood. And this is a replica pulpit of one that had been there many years ago. As I said, I grew up in Hanham, and quite often as a young boy, I would walk up to the mount and stand in the replica pulpit that was there at the time, which was a wooden one, and look out over the green and imagine John Wesley or George Whitefield there preaching to the miners of Kingswood, never knowing that one day in the future, I too would be preaching the same gospel as those two great men of God. Now, as a group of churches, we are going through discovering what it is to rediscover our heart. And I would like to suggest that one thing we need to remember is that at the heart of the gospel is the cross of Jesus Christ. And I believe as individual Christians and as a corporate body of the church, we need to make sure that we too are revived and that we are called to the work that God has called his church to, and that is to share the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And as we move through these next weeks and months, perhaps we too could make this reading from Habakkuk a prayer. So let me read it and invite you to join with me. Lord, as I listen to what has been said about you, I am afraid. Lord, revive your work throughout all our lives. Reveal yourself throughout all of our lives. When you are angry, remember compassion. May that be my prayer and your prayer in the days and weeks that lie ahead. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you again. God bless.